Welcome to another episode of the Live Happy, Healthy, and Inspired podcast. The podcast all about learning how to live a happy, healthy, and inspired life. I'm your host, Brad, a once upon a time overweight, lethargic, low self-esteem couch potato that turned it all around. My mission now is to empower you, the listener, with the strategies, tips, and advice for what it takes so that you too can live happy, healthy, and inspired. Are you striving for greater success in your life, but still feel unfulfilled? In today's episode, success strategist Karen Sarmento and I dive deep into what it truly means to be successful and what a successful life is really all about. Key takeaways from today's episode include why traditional views of success may not bring fulfillment, how to align your goals with your true values and passions, and practical steps to redefine success for you and your life. Be sure and stay tuned until the end, where Karen shares her most important piece of advice about what a successful life really is all about. Good afternoon, or I always say good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where where in the world you are and listening. I'm Brad. Another episode of the Live Happy, Healthy, and Inspired podcast. Coming to us today from Massachusetts is Karen. Karen, thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Brad. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited
Yeah.
to be.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you. And we were talking a little bit off camera. Somehow the law of attraction, something has brought us together, and you're literally the perfect guest to have on the show today because there's so many different aspects that we can dive into. So for the listeners today, stick with us because we're going to be diving into success, what success is all about, mindset, developing the mindset to support your definition of success, and then of course tapping into your true potential. So Karen, let's just jump right into it. And let's start with this idea of success because there's so many, I don't even know, variations of that. And of course, we know what society tells us: the house, the car, the job, the education, and all that. And I know one of your specialties is helping women in particular redefine what success is for them. So let's start with you personally. What is your definition of success?
Oh, that's such a great question. So my definition of success, I think, really comes down to it's an inner sense of peace and freedom, knowing that I'm kind of doing my best every day and that I'm showing up as a version of myself that I love. But it's really listening to that little inner voice that tells me what I want to be doing and having those boundaries and just, I don't know, the whereabouts to pursue what's really meaningful to me.
I think you literally just copied my mind or read my mind or something. Because if I were to define success, I would literally say listening to that inner voice too. But here's the challenge. So many of us don't because we're listening to the outer voice, which is the voice of society. So how are you able to tune into that inner voice, and how do you help others get them to tune into that inner voice?
Yes. It wasn't easy for me actually at first, but it was through a series of facing my own challenges in life that I kind of ended up against, not necessarily by choice, hitting the reset button and really having to take a step back and ask myself what really matters to me and what is really important to me and why am I doing some of the things that I'm doing? Which was a huge question because a lot of times it doesn't make sense.
You just hit the nail on the head with those three questions. What really matters? So when you asked yourself those questions, what did you come up with?
What I came up with was it's people for me personally, and everybody's definition of success is different as you know too. But for me, it's people and it's my family. So my son, my family, and then it's also having a purpose, like feeling like I'm making a difference, answering what I think was my bigger calling.
And so when you work with clients, do you ask them these questions also, like what really matters to you? And what are some of the answers that you get? I'm curious. I'll answer my answer, or I'll give my answer to that in a second, but I'm curious what some of your clients say. And how do you help them define success?
So it really takes a conscious awareness, the ability to stop for a second and really be aware of the things you're doing, why you're doing them, and what things don't necessarily really resonate with who you are as a person, your values, your desires, your aspirations, your goals, if you have any goals. Sometimes it all kind of just becomes very mechanical, the way we walk through life, kind of the Groundhog Day. So I
Yeah.
really have people step back and really look at their life, look at their day-to-day behaviors. Are they doing the things that light them up? What are the things that light them up versus the things that absolutely suck the life out of them?
And I fell into that trap a lot too. I think for me, I've learned like we're talking about, right now, what is success? Initially, I bought into what society says. It's the job, the house, the car, the career, all of those things. And I had a lot of pressure, that's the word, from family members and whatnot to follow that path. And to a certain degree, I did, but I lost sight of my true self. And over time, my definition of success has become this: being true to yourself.
Mm.
And so that led me to, and unbeknownst to me, I'd been doing that the whole time. I just didn't really know, because initially I did want to do the job and everything, but I realized this isn't who I really am. So what are some of the ways, especially with clients that you work with, that we can start to, and this was a challenge for me, listen to that inner voice so that we can come up with our own definition of success versus that outside pressure, that outside noise of society, the house, the job, the car. How were you able to tune that out?
Yeah. Constant awareness of my thoughts. I believe our thoughts are a direct reflection of the reality. No, I'm sorry. A reality is a direct reflection of what's going on in our mind, and that our thoughts kind of create our reality. So really always being aware of what I'm thinking, what I'm saying to myself, whether it's when I get up in the morning or whether it's when I look in the mirror. Um, and also when you have that little inner voice that says, maybe I'm meant for more than what I'm doing, maybe I have a greater purpose, taking note of what follows that, because all those limiting beliefs that have been instilled in us over the course of time, they instantly creep in and shut it down. So it's really about always being the gatekeeper of your mind, of your thoughts, and being aware of your feelings, and really being willing to take a look at yourself.
Did you ever have any like outside pressure to continue to listen to what society was telling you? And how did you deal with that pressure?
It's so funny. I like that question because I might have thought I did, but really I almost think it was all self-imposed, because most of
I know what it's like to struggle with weight loss, lack motivation, and feel lost with no purpose. I've been there. This was me, overweight, unmotivated, and battling low self-esteem. But I took back my life, and now I'm here to help you do the same. My book, Take Back Your Life, is your guide to breaking through these challenges. It's time to reclaim your health, motivation, and self-worth. Readers are saying, a life-changing guide helped me find my purpose and the boost I needed to transform. Start your journey today. Let's take back your life together.
Karen, before we had some technology issues there, we were talking about success and this idea. How did you deal with the pressures and the noises of what the external definition of success is? I guess. So, what did you kind of do to tune some of that out so that you could really focus on your awareness and those thoughts that you were having?
Yeah, it definitely requires being willing to question the thoughts, question um, when the call to do something uncomfortable or something greater than what we're used to comes to mind. A limiting belief always creeps right in to shut it down. So it's being aware and catching that, and being willing to question it, to question the doubt, to question the fear, and reframe it, and being willing to work on it, because it doesn't happen overnight. So I think when we can catch those thoughts and do the thing anyway, I think makes a huge difference.
Curious, what was one of the limiting beliefs that you had to work through? And I'll share one of mine here in a second, but what is one or limiting belief that you had to work through?
A big one for me was, who am I to do that? Or who am I to do anything special or great? Or who am I to think I'm going to make a difference somewhere? It's that was one of my biggest. What was yours?
Well, okay, so real quick, mine was a big one I had to work through was that anything was possible for everyone except me. Except me. So I had to work through the except me part and realize that anything was possible for me also. How did you work through your limiting belief? How did you overcome that? And what did you replace it with, or what did you come up with then?
Yes. And I have to say, I didn't mean to laugh. I laughed because I could so relate. It was the
Yeah,
same
yeah.
that who
No,
am I to do
I knew
anything?
that's why you were smiling there. Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
Yes, she can, but I can't. That's great that she does that. I could never do that. What did I do? It was I started with simple things like affirmations, writing things down, writing mirror work, looking myself in the eye and telling myself things, that I'm powerful, I'm strong, but really kind of attaching some emotion to it. And when I really got into things, I started to I made a decision actually. You know what? If she can, I can. And I think I have a greater calling than what I'm doing. And when I started to believe that and actually accept that, I wrote out my self-image script of who I needed to be to do the things I wanted to do. And I started to kind of just show up as that person. And I kind of had fun with it. It was like maybe even dressing a little differently or wearing your hair differently, or even if I was nervous to walk into a room, just telling myself head up, shoulders back, and you're no different than anybody else in this room. We're all in this together.
I like that. Creating that new identity. That's a big step in my programs too. That's one of the first steps. That's what I had to do for myself, create that new identity and show up as that person. And that sounds like what you had to do as well. So let me kind of segue. I'm curious then, mindset is a big piece of this. How were you able to develop the mindset then to support this new version of you showing up and overcome that? That's been one of my biggest challenges still is developing the mindset piece. So where does that come in for you?
Yeah. It's doing new things every day. That self-image script, showing up as her every day and actually taking action, doing things that are out of my comfort zone. Because as you know, nothing new happens in the comfort zone. It's like that's not where we grow, that's not where the magic is. And when you do things that are uncomfortable, that's when you grow. That's when just you become a different version of yourself. So I think taking action on things that were uncomfortable.
How did you get the courage to do that?
That's a good question.
Mm.
I think I've done so much personal development work that I realized sometimes I just had to do it. I just had to do the thing that was uncomfortable. And on the other side of that was, wow, I survived. And you feel different by doing the thing that's uncomfortable. You derive a sense of power from that. And then you're in that much further forward. So it was really, I think, taking action, doing things differently.
And so kind of like Nike says, you just do it.
Just do it. Yes.
Just do it. I realized, I'm curious your thoughts on this. So my mindset journey a while back, I realized I can use my mind as a tool, as a computer to have thoughts. And I can actually control the thoughts. And I'm like, well, why would I use my mind to have a thought that like tears me down or
Mhm.
disempowers me? That was a big aha moment for me because I'm like, well, why don't I just have a thought that builds me up? And when I had that thought, I went, oh, and that's how I slowly began to shift my mindset is I realized, yeah, like you said earlier, Karen, being aware of our thoughts, but I'm like, why don't I use my thoughts to build myself up instead of saying like, I can't do this or this isn't possible? What if I tell myself it is possible? And what
Mhm.
if instead of focusing on the struggle and this not working, what if I focus on the success and that it is working?
So true. We do. And I think it comes so easy to use the mind to as a disservice to us versus it can really be a service to us. It's like our memory. I feel like we use our memory to recall all the times we failed or made a mistake or the time things didn't work out. We'll recall that and just over and over and over again. But we spend very little time remembering the times we were successful or celebrating the times we did something amazing or recalling a massive win.
And what I used to do and what I still do is I started to just build myself up by celebrating the small wins. Like if I sent an email, I'd be like, good job, Brad, you sent that email today. If I made a healthy meal, I was like, good job, Brad, you stuck with your healthy eating today. I started really praising myself and congratulating myself. And I guess being proud of myself, like just for the simplest things. If I got up an extra 10 minutes early or something, it's like, hey, good job, Brad. Really, really proud of the way that you got out of bed today. What are some tips or tricks or strategies you have for supporting others with mindset? And then I guess going back to success, supporting others on their journey of defining success for them.
Yeah. I think when we get a crystal clear vision of what our definition of success is, or when you get some really clear goals in place, you start to move towards something. So oftentimes if you ask somebody, well, what are your goals? And people, they don't have any. It's just, I don't know, just, wake up and go. And that to me now has become so foreign because I have so many things that I'm working on or working toward. And I think having clarity on what's important and what your actual goals are, you automatically start moving towards that because it's in your mind and you start to attract the people, the opportunities, the experiences that are needed to make it happen.
And that's interesting. Why do you think so many of us in society today, any country that's listening right now, that we don't have goals? I mean, I don't know anywhere in the world that, a parent doesn't say to their child, have a goal or, it's important to set goals. But you're right, so many of us don't. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, I don't really know. I wonder if it's not, we get so caught up in the rat race, we get in that hamster wheel every day and just go, go, go and check off the boxes of, the shoulds I should do and all the things, the people pleasing. And I think we just lose sight of it.
I think we get too caught up in society's definition of success, and that
Mhm.
becomes our reality, our world. Yeah. Here's
Yeah.
another interesting thing I've learned. It's one thing to have a goal, but I was always taught, and I struggled with this, and there's that word again. I hate to use that word struggle, but we're taught that you can achieve anything you set your mind to. And I don't think there's anyone on this planet that would actually disagree with that. But the challenge is we don't set our mind, meaning we don't
Mhm.
commit, we don't take that focused effort or action or consistency. What do you think is going on there with our society today? Again, any country, any culture, I think.
Yeah, because like you just said, it's so important that when you have that goal, it stays on the forefront of your mind and your thoughts. Because if the thoughts are creating the reality, then we have to be sure our thoughts are serving us.
Mhm.
And I think, yeah, we get so caught up in just what, as you said, society, what the boxes are we're supposed to check for each day. And, I think there's a piece of we don't feel worthy of devoting that time to ourselves. Everybody else gets put first. So we don't give ourselves permission to be important and for our goals to be important, to even have goals, because there's so many other things. Everybody else is more important. So those things can wait.
You are hitting the nail on the head, like so accurate. I always tell that it's we forget about ourselves.
Hmm.
I think it's, and I always tell anyone that will listen is that we have to make ourselves a priority, our own well-being, our own health, and we have to be the number one priority. And you're right, Karen, we put everything and everyone else a priority over our own selves. And I think that's a big reason we don't set goals. And maybe then if we do, we set a half-hearted goal or make that half-hearted effort. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I completely agree. And because we're only half in, or we've made it so unimportant that it's kind of just a fleeting goal, and then we abandon it altogether and nothing ever comes of it. And then that's the cycle of what goal setting means.
How are you able to stay consistent and work towards your goals on a daily basis?
I definitely have made it a priority. My goals are written down, they're on paper. And I make time every day for some form of personal development, whether it's writing something on my self-image script or working on something toward my goal. And I'm big on visioneering, like really picturing things happening as I want them to happen. And I think that attracts things in a certain way.
And so, Karen, you work full-time also as a nurse practitioner still, and you have a full-time
Part-time
family?
now.
Oh, part-time now. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and you have a full-time family and all that, so you're taking care of a house and family and all that. How are you able to make yourself a priority then, I guess? Because that's what a lot of people, especially women, they struggle, especially if they're a mom and a wife and all that and working outside of the house, they struggle with making themselves a priority. How were you able to do that, and what tips would you have for someone listening?
One of the things that helped me was that I realized the more I made myself a priority, the stronger I showed up for my family. The more I invested some time into myself or, working on my self-image, the better I felt about me and the better I showed up. And I think of my son in particular. He's 19 now. So, but I always would say things to him like you just said, oh, you can do anything you put your mind to. And like, is that the example I'm setting?
Uh,
Huh.
Lead by
So
example. Yeah, good.
yeah. So yeah, the more I invested some time or into making myself a little bit of a priority and making sure that I knew I mattered, it actually, I think it set a better example and I showed up better and stronger.
So if I'm a listener right now, I'm a stay-at-home mom, or even if I'm a career working mom, either one, and I say, well, Karen, that's easy for you to say, but I just don't have time. I have, three kids. I got to get to soccer practice, and I got to make dinner, and then I got to finish this assignment for the bank tomorrow. Blah blah blah. What would you
Mhm.
say? What would you say to me?
I would say that it's so important to make it a priority and that there's so much stuff out there that you really can kind of infuse it into the day somewhere. I always have something going in my ear. I'm listening to an audio book or some kind of a podcast like this. It's there's ways that you keep it on the forefront of your brain. And then when you start to see some results, you become more not addicted to it, but you see the gain in investing in yourself. So it makes it, huh, wow, it is a priority.
And
And magically it does find you do find that there actually is time and there always was.
you kind of get that dopamine release.
Yeah. Yep.
I like to say again for anyone listening, sometimes I like to ask, well, what happens if you don't make yourself a priority? What is your life like if you don't make yourself a priority? If you don't do this? If you don't make yourself a priority, will you be the best version for your home, for your office, for your children, for your community? And
Mhm.
I found oftentimes that the answer to that is no, because I get the opposite release. I get the cortisol release when I'm making everything else a priority. So even last night, for me personally, I just had to turn off everything, and I got home from work. I was exhausted. I just 3 hours. I just even my dog who wanted to go outside for a walk, bless her heart. I'm like, I can't do it. I've got to just sit here and rest tonight and make myself a priority. But I'm much more energized today because I did that. Uh, Karen,
Yeah.
you also talk about this idea of, we're going to transition here a little bit, this idea of tapping into your true potential. What do you mean by that?
I believe we were all put here to do something amazing. I think we weren't meant to just um, perform at a mediocre level. And I believe we all have that limitless potential within us. And I think it's just our limiting beliefs and our doubt in ourselves that holds us back. So when you start to listen to that inner voice that tells you you're meant for more, you're getting that message for a reason. And I believe that with all my heart that we all have a purpose. And all too often, I think we just kind of shove it down because we're not here by chance. That's my personal belief.
Yeah, if we're breathing, have a pulse, there's a mission for us, a purpose for us. Curious, Karen, what if my inner voice, and my inner voice said this a lot during my journey, what if it says I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy, or I don't deserve that, or I'm fat, or I'm ugly, or things like that? How do I get to my full potential? And that's what my inner voice is telling me.
Yeah, those are the limiting beliefs, and they can be very powerful. You have to catch them and question them and turn them around and really, really, even sometimes looking back as to, geez, where did that come from? Or when did that start? Where did that even come from? Is it true? It's not true. And questioning them and then doing the inner work to kind of reprogram the mind to believe otherwise.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier that you spend like, a certain amount of time every day doing the inner work and the personal development work. I'm that way too. I probably spend minimum half hour a day doing the inner work, whether it's journaling or something like that. But a lot of people don't. And they say this is where I struggle actually as a coach. Maybe you can give me some tips. A lot of people want what you have, want what I have, and they know what to do, but they still don't do it.
Mm.
How can we get to those people? How can we reach those people? How can we switch them from a non-doer, they know what needs to be done, to actually, like you said earlier, doing the work, doing
Yeah.
the inner work, doing what needs to be done? Because everybody can sit down with a pen and paper and do the inner work and journal, or listen to a podcast, something like that.
Yeah. Two things. One is it's a decision or a choice that I want more, I want better. I'm going to do better. If I want better, I need to do better. I need to show up better. I just need to do better. And um, I think I forgot what I was going to say.
Oh, that's fine. That's
Not
fine.
be edited out. I had a good thought
Oh
with two
no,
things, but I
that's
couldn't
fine.
remember the second one.
That happens. That happens. Way back in the beginning of my journey, it came down to kind of what we talked about before. So answering kind of my own question, how do you do the work that needs to be done? It's knowing, for me, it was about knowing your identity, who you are. Everything you asked
Mhm.
earlier, Karen, about, what really matters. And it was those two questions: who am I and what really matters, or what do I want my life to be about? I had to sit back and answer those questions. And for me, that's what kind of gets me up and out of bed and able to, do personal work every day and realize, yeah, having my definition of success for me means being true to myself. So if my inside
Mm.
intuition, inner voice, whatever we call it, is saying, write this book or send that email or contact Karen to be on my podcast, that's what I do. Karen, as we kind of start to wrap things up here, is there any like wise words of wisdom, any piece of advice that you would like to offer our listeners on anything we've said today?
Yeah. And I think on that topic too is having a really big why. Why do I want more? Why do I want to be better? And having a powerful why that runs deep will always kind of drive you when things get difficult or when you don't feel like doing the journaling. There's a bigger why behind all of it. And I think that can drive the boat a little bit further. But I think in closing, I would say that I do believe we are human beings that are meant to do amazing things, and it's possible. And I think also being accountable for where you are now, but knowing that you can be, do, or have whatever you want.
Well, just curious, you mentioned why just now. What is your why?
My why is it's my son. I really want to leave a legacy that is memorable and meaningful. And I really want to walk the walk and of what I try to teach him, and how better to do that than to do it myself. So I think that's my biggest why.
And Karen, the thing I like about you, everything, you're very genuine and sincere. I can really tell that you believe in what you're saying. And that's a huge part of this journey for anyone listening is it's not a matter of saying I am beautiful. It's a matter of believing that you are beautiful. And Karen, your words are truly, truly spoken. Anything else, Karen, for the good of the order before we sign off? And we'll talk about your webpage here in just a second.
Yeah, no, this has been such a pleasure and such a fun conversation. This is just that your thoughts and your thoughts do create your reality, which is which is a beautiful thing because you can control that. So you can really control your results.
And here's a quick tip I'd give for our listeners. You can reverse engineer your reality. So think about, what reality do I want? What reality am I currently experiencing? And what reality do I want? What's the reality I want to have for my life? So again, that question, what do I want my life to be about? And then start to have the thoughts that will match that reality that you do want. So yeah, you can look at your reality and say, yeah, this is my current reality. Is this working for me? Do I like it? If yes, full speed ahead. But if no, well, what reality would I like to have? And then yeah, just as you said, Karen, have that mindset. And for me, I think when you have that idea of your reality and the mindset, that's beginning to tap into what we call our true potential. I don't know, it's just my thoughts here at the end.
So fun. No, I love it. So fun too.
Karen, real quick, how can folks get a hold of you if you want to if they want to work with you, or do you have any upcoming webinars or anything, seminars, books, any of that stuff, a website?
Yeah, probably my website is probably the easiest place, karensarmento.com. You can contact me there as well through the website. You can book a call, or even Facebook. That's how we kind of communicated a little bit. And I have a Facebook page, Facebook group. Anything through there is great. I'm always happy to hear from people.
Yeah, and I'll put all of that information in the show notes, links to your website and your Facebook and your group and all that. For anyone listening, thank you so much for being here. If you've gotten anything out of this episode, I would super appreciate if you would share this episode far and wide. I have a personal goal. I'm in 55 countries right now. My next goal is 75 countries. I would like to ultimately get to 150 countries. So the more, if you're listening, that you could share this, I would super appreciate that. And if you got anything out of this, please hit that subscribe button and leave me a review on Apple Podcasts. Again, the more we can get this word out, it's all about, for me, helping others to understand what you know, Karen, what I know, to live happy, healthy, and inspired. So with that note, I'll wrap it up. Thanks everyone for listening. And until next time, I'll say live happy, healthy, and inspired. Take care, everyone. Thanks. We'll see you next time.